it's your favorite neighborhood nerd, Simone. I'm here today with a wrap up of my making diaries for February 2026, as well as a little planning talk for March. And yeah, the first thing that I want to talk about is all the books that I read in February, what I'm currently reading, 2 new books that I discovered. Then I want to talk about mail, how that went, how my Valentine's project went. I want to talk about knitting, food, and what I did when I went outside. And then the last thing that I want to address is, as I said earlier, my Valentine's project and how all of that went down. Stuff like that tends to be hyper focus modes for me, and hyper focusing is fun, but also it is dangerous in a sense. And I have developed some rules, like a safety net, so that I don't fall as hard and have to recover as badly or as much from these types of projects when I come resurface back. And I want to talk a little bit about that. And then I want to do another dice roll this month to see what other projects I could, or one other project that I could do in March. So I'm going to turn the camera around for the book section, and then I will be back face to face to talk about some other things. So let me check. How many books did I read in February? I read exactly 6. I started The Poet Empress on January 30th, finished it February 3rd, and this was an extraordinary book. Now, it has a lot of trigger warnings, so if you are interested in this book, I would highly recommend you check what the triggers are and if this is still a good choice for you. I listened to all the books that I have on this in February. I started reading a paper book that is still not finished. I will quickly touch on that. So it is a fantasy book. It is dark. Wei Lin is the daughter of very poor rice farmers. There is a famine going on at this moment, and so she offers herself up as a concubine to the heir of the Azalea house. It is another very female-driven novel. This woman steps out of the expected norms on how she is supposed to behave. The language is very descriptive. It is quite long. Maybe I need to write down how many pages or hours it takes for these books last. On my sheets, there is a space for that, and maybe that would be interesting to see. Women in this era are not allowed to read or write, and because writing enables them to do poetry magic, which is something that is reserved to only men. Wei Lin learns how to read and write, and basically the whole novel is about her writing a very dangerous poem in order to do some damage. And in order to be able to write this poem, she needs to learn about the history of this specific heir. And it was just so well written, so well constructed. You were always rooting for specific characters, but the hard part about this book was that you were able to understand why the bad guy was behaving the way he was. And yeah, that was something that is always hard. This woman does not behave the way you would expect a woman to behave all the way until the end. And I just loved that about this book. This book is one of the best reads of 2026 for me. And it is really weird. I'm not sure if I just need to make my rating scale or the way that I receive books and rate books harder, because it feels to me that I am only, or a lot of the books that I'm reading are winners. I have had that since I started this year. I've been always like, I'm excited about every single book that I'm reading. And that is so weird, but also so amazing to experience. So if you're wanting to read something that is very poetic, very literary, but also so out of this world, so amazing, highly recommend The Poet Empress. I actually talked so much about this book that my husband is now interested in reading this. And he normally doesn't like to read what I read. So our tastes in books are so different. Then I read more of a palette cleanser. Obviously, a very impactful book like The Poet Empress. I often do then listen to podcasts to, let the shock waves of the book even out. Or I read something that is very easy to read, a quick, maybe love story, romance novel, something like that. And that was The Last Chance Library. This is an author I have read before. I spent February 5th to the 9th on this, so I had 2 days in between these books before I started the next one. This book was released August 31st, 2021. The Poet Empress is a very fresh release. I was able to jump on this through a Jump the Line offer. I don't know how that happens through libraries, but it happened to me quite frequently last year and was always fun. If I was able to make the time, you have only 7 days to read the book and then it will automatically be taken from you. This one I was able to do. The Last Chance Library was and I don't know, man. This book had a lot of elements that I normally love. Quirky characters, found family element, but I did not enjoy how shy and unwilling to change or take advice the main character was. Maybe she was just very one-dimensional. All of her problems came from being shy. And yes, I know that being shy is an issue. I'm not immune to that. I often would love to say stuff that I then don't because I just am not brave enough to say it in the moment. But this book looked at these characters for almost a year, I believe, and there was no change. No, none of it at all. Even though the rest of the book progressed and she should have been able to gain a little more confidence by the way she was received by other people. And it felt just not how I would expect a character to grow. And so that was something that I just struggled with. The book was cute, but maybe nothing more than being cute. And of course, it was about books. So, and also the elderly people in this book were described so nicely. So, if you can look over and pass over the fact that the main character might not be as likable as you would want her to be, this is a nice and easy, fast read. Then, pa-bum, I jumped into the next fantasy novel, which is so unlike me. I don't normally enjoy fantasy, but maybe I need to just change my. Maybe I do like fantasy now. Again, this is something that is new to me. I am very open to reading books that are recommended on podcasts, talked about by different people. And by trying all of those books out after they have been recommended to me, it also helps me hone in on who are good recommendation sources for me, because if they're always good after this specific person talks about them, then I know that I can actually trust and just read what she reads, and it's going to be great. So I read The Goblin Emperor. This book was recommended by Meredith of the Currently Reading podcast. It was one of her favorite books of 2025, I believe. And I spent February 10th to the 13th, 2026 on this book. It was released April 4, 2014. There is several novels in this specific world, but not specifically about this person, the Goblin Emperor. I really enjoyed the narrator. However, I wanted to jump in on the next book because I enjoyed it so much. I wanted to stay a little longer in the world, but it was a different narrator, and so I decided not to continue with that. Here's what I wrote. The youngest son of the emperor has lived his entire life in exile. Now he is suddenly the heir and has to navigate court politics without knowing the rules and not having friends. How can he fill big steps but also stay true to himself? Question mark. I really, the Poet Empress was quite slow. The Goblin Emperor was quite slow. Again, this is super surprising to me. Normally, I don't enjoy these types of books, but the way this was written was just so invigorating, and so the pictures that the person painted with words came alive in my brain, that I just enjoyed being in this world so much. Court politics, intrigue, stuff like that does not interest me, but how this young man of 18, I believe, learns the ropes. And again, the question is, how can he stay true to himself, do the things that he believes are right, while also navigating all of those things? And he does it so nicely. It's just such a good book because the good prevails. Again, if you're interested in this, maybe listen to a sample. I can highly recommend this book as well. I can always highly recommend all of the books that I'm reading, because I am also trying to just stop what I'm reading if it doesn't work for me. The Unselected Journals of Emma M. Lyon was also recommended and talked about on the Currently Reading podcast quite a bit. So I thought this would be a nice palate cleanser. There's a lot of... Yes, that's why. Again, this was one that had made big waves in my brain. I kept saying the weird names of this world over and over again, and I chewed on this book for quite a bit after.
So I actually, let's jump to the bottom book, which is Who Deserves Your Love, is a self-help book. The author is Casey Davis, who also wrote How to Keep House While Drowning. This book was released May 6th, 2025. It's an audiobook, but I would personally not recommend this as an audiobook because there's a lot of worksheets and trees that you decision making trees that you would go through in the book that you do not go through when you listen to. They are being narrated to you, and then you still learn quite a bit. But I think this in print or ebook, where you can actually reference the worksheets that you should be working on, would be so much more helpful. What this book did for me, just like the How to Keep House While Drowning, was putting words to experiences that I didn't have before. So it built a relationship vocabulary, kind of. I didn't write it down. It probably would be good to actually like really sit down and dig deeper. But it was definitely a surface level scratch for me to rethink relationships, to um, start digging a little deeper, and learning more about how I myself, um, navigate those. I think I would recommend both of these books to my children to read them when in the beginning of their adulthood, as I feel like the words and the vocabulary are really important so that you can actually talk about your own feelings. For the housekeeping book, it doesn't necessarily reframe chores as self-care, but loving yourself is part of doing chores, keeping your house clean, and just going into this when you're moving into a place and when you're taking care of yourself as a young adult. I find that I think that would be very impactful when you start out. Same with this, Who Deserves Your Love, when those young adults start getting into relationships and maybe rethinking their relationships with their parents, would be a really good time to work through this. And just even if you don't have like a romantic relationship right now, how is your friend group doing? How is your relationship with your parents? How much do you have to detangle from that parental relationship, the trauma that you maybe bring with you into your new life? I think that would be super, super helpful. And so that was something that I'm actually thinking about. I want to tell my children about these books, about their existence, and if they're interested in them, I would actually purchase both as paper books. So then after this I finished this almost all the way to the end, but I decided that if I were actually going to work with this, it would be easier to do this in paper. So I then, because the Goblin Emperor was still so present in my mind, I thought a short, easy read would be cool next. So I went to the Unselected Journals of Emma M. Lyon. First book, I think there is 9. This one was released January 1st, 2019, so it's been out for a while. It's historical fiction. Again, it's a journal, so it's in first person narrator, it's journal entries. Just the fact that it is a journal is interesting and intriguing to me because I'm a journaler myself. And so it took me a little bit to get into the story and learn all the people and what is going on. but I enjoyed it. I think it was only 3 hours long, so it's not a long book at all. The others are different lengths, so I'm very curious to see how this progresses. I'm definitely going to continue with this series as they come available from my library. It is another female lead character in a time where female characters are not allowed to take charge. She is taking her life into her hands, and it's nice. Nothing really happened just yet, so I'm curious to see how the volume 2 and onwards are progressing. And then I just finished The Correspondent yesterday. Every time I heard about this book, this was talked about so much last year, so 2025, I felt like I need to read this book. Now, as you know, I'm an audiobook reader mostly, and I wasn't sure if this was going to work as an audiobook. But I decided that I would just try and see how the audiobook narration of this is, if it works for me, and if it doesn't, then I can still move towards the paper book. Now, the audiobook is excellent. Having these letters read to you feels almost like having short stories read to you, like small segments. And the way that they are presented to you in the book, there is voices for all the different people who write letters. So it's easy to distinguish between them. And it totally worked for me. And yes, there's so much in this book. And it's so, now I understand why people say it's so hard to talk about this book. You can see the character development of the main person, Sybil Stone Van Antwerp. She is an elderly lady. She's reflecting on her life. Things have happened in her life. So it is not extremely boring. Every letter is necessary, every postcard, every email is necessary to put the whole story together. Besides getting to know Sybil, you also get to know several side characters and what their life, how they are connected. She is still growing in her old age, which is so comforting to know that even though she is old, she's not stopping to learn. And even though in the beginning you feel like there is some unwillingness, she still grows quite a bit. I would assume that she is on the spectrum. There's a lot of so much nuance. Gay relationships, how these were received in the past, how they are received right now. Child death is a topic. Long-standing female friendships, romance at an old age. It was really good. Really, really good. I can totally see how everybody loved this book in particular. Again, one of the best books I read in 2026. All of these stories that are connected randomly, it seems, come full circle at the end. And it's just so good. Now, let's jump to the book that I'm currently reading. I am not reading anything at the moment. The next book that is on my list is by Sophie Cousins. I will put the title here. I totally forgot. It's another romance novel. I feel like after this chunky, weighty book, I need something, a palette cleanser, so that's where I'm going next. I'm currently still reading in paper form the book Frankie, which is a German book. Fits into the themes that seem to interest me quite a bit, which is the world from the eye of an animal. In this instance, it's a cat. However, again, there is quite a few triggers. This book, I think, has been translated to English, so it is available if you're interested. There is suicidal ideation in this book. Depression is quite big. Sometimes the world as it stands from the eye of the cat is very simplified, and I find that I'm not sure if I love that, because it works a lot of the times, but also I find that really dangerous when talking about depression and suicidal ideation. So I'm not 100% sure what to think about it just yet. I'm almost done with it. But even though it is quite light, it seems I had to stop because I just couldn't take it any longer when I was reading it. So I will be back probably tonight. And then I want to talk about not the books that I'm currently reading, but, well, maybe two finds that I got through an article that was sent to me. Joy, or How to Find Joy in Hard Times. And these two books were recommended. This is a book of poetry by Lem Sisse, Let the Light Pour In. I'm not sure if this is how it's supposed to be pronounced. Morning poems. I haven't dug in here just yet. I thought they were mostly about the sunrise, but that is not true. I will for sure read the introduction for sure. It's supposed to be a Sunday Times bestseller, which I don't know about them. I have never heard of this book before. I saw it in the article, but these are 4-line poems, supposedly 365. And I'm curious to read them alongside. One that I read and that caught me and that that's what made me purchase the book is this one. It's not here. It is Day Breaks, and I actually didn't copy it correctly, so let me read it to you from here. Day breaks and a slit yolk sun oozes on a lightly toasted and buttered sky. I just love the imagery that this evokes. So I bought this, and I also bought this one. So this was a very successful article for me in terms of book recommendations. And I thought I was excited about this one. I'm hesitant. I hope it's delivering what I want. Let's read one more. The days are longer, they weaken the night. Shadows are stronger in hunger for light. And I'm like, this is just way over my head. However, the other book that was in here is A Cloud a Day by Gavin Preder-Pinney, 365 Skies from the Cloud Appreciation Society. First of all, I did not know that such a thing as the Cloud Appreciation Society existed. And I don't know why I'm not a member yet, because clouds are one of my favorite thing on the planet. I bought this, and I am so happy that I took the plunge, because I am able to learn a tiny bit about clouds in the introduction here. But then actually there is cloud pictures, and the text underneath is just enough to make me more interested in them. Like fluctus clouds are also known as Kelvin Helmholtz wave clouds after 19th century scientists Lord Kelvin and Hermann von Helmholtz, who studied turbulence at the boundary between moving fluids. A difference in velocity between two airstreams known as wind shear results in unstable vortices that can lead to this rare and fleeting formation. Man, ugh. And the funny and best thing about this book is actually, let me show you this very first one. One way to open your eyes to unnoticed beauty is to ask yourself, what if I had never seen this before? What if I knew I would never see this again? Perfect poem, for one. And the second is cirrocumulus lenticularis clouds contorted by turbulence in the lee of the Sierra Nevada mountains, California, U.S. Oh my God, this is where I am. Well, not necessarily because I am in Nevada, but still, ugh. I see these types of clouds so many times, so often. And the clouds here where I live are just so fabulous and amazing. And man, I cannot wait to dig through this book. It kind of appears as a coffee table book, and I am very aware of that. But what I love about it so much is that it is so small. So this is the size of a traveler's notebook. So this is basically A5 size, maybe a little wider, but it's portable. I can actually read it. It's not too heavy, but it looks extremely pretty. It's, oh my gosh, so stunning. And often with those coffee table books is that I don't look through them, but I have actually started reading this, and I can't wait to read more. I want to know all about the clouds, and I should become a member of the Cloud Appreciation Society for sure. So, because I have been talking about books and new books, I want to show you some things that came in Happy Mail. This is by Logan. He is, I am following him on Instagram. I did not know that he was such a talented artist, but he made this lino cut and had a Google form where you could request a postcard sent to you by him, and so I did. But I wanted to shout him out because this is just so fabulous and so amazing. I love it. He also actually did a lino cut for the back side, but I unfortunately can't show you because there's nothing much to be able to be seen when you cover up the addresses. Let me see. Maybe you can. Here. Oh my gosh, doesn't this look just fabulous? Wow, I'm so impressed, and I just, wow. It inspires me to do something similar. And then I also placed an order with Nico Neko for some print on stickers and some tape. And I am going to say this here yet again. I really should stop buying PET rolls. So they came. Nico Neko doesn't send out stuff really quickly, number one. So this is for a special day by Hours Studio. And I like the images, and I think I can use them. But also, so many. So I guess I will use and send those in Happy Mail. And then I bought this from a kind of cafe. It's called Fruity Idea Book. And yeah, it's really nice. They're lovely collages, for sure. But I really don't know why I bought it. It's not like I'm using these types of tapes a lot. Ugh, I don't know. So I guess I will be sending stuff to friends. Maybe that was, I don't know. I, I don't know. So either this was an accident or I really thought that I wanted this, but I can't explain to you why. And then I also bought this. These are print-on stickers by Our Studio. I love the imagery on these. These look super cute and lovely. Again, I don't really know where I'm going to use these. I have been in my journal. My regular everyday long form writing journal, I'm leaving space about this much so I can put a sticker. So I think what I'm going to do is use those there. Did I need a dopamine hit? Not sure. So I will use them, but saying it here again, I probably shouldn't buy more of this type of stuff.
Now, let's talk a little bit about the knitting stuff. I have had a hard time to establish a knitting habit since I decided that I wanted to focus a little bit on knitting in my making diaries, because that is something that I really would love to do. But for some reason, it just doesn't appear naturally in my daily or weekly routine, which is something that I'm tackling in another area. I'm trying to get back into planning a little bit more. And in that, how does planning look like in my phase of life right now? How can that work really well for me? I've also started to think about what would an ideal day in my everyday boring life look like? What would I want to accomplish every single day so that at the end of the day, I go to bed and I feel like I had a good day. I didn't miss out on anything. I didn't not do any of the things that I wanted to do. And I feel like I'm accomplished, even though maybe in the grand scheme of things, I didn't really do anything. So in this whole process that I'm currently still in quite a bit, and I really want to share a video about that sooner rather than later, but I still need to find a way to talk about that process so that it makes sense to people. In that process, I felt like, if I could knit for 15 minutes every day, I think that would make me quite happy. And now I'm going to talk about the planning thing again. I think that would make me happy. Do I know that now yet? No, I don't. So I'm trying to work that into my daily routine, and it seems to be a really good place to do that right before I pull out my pens and my journal, before I play in my journals and watch some YouTube at night. So I put up some YouTube, I pull out my knitting, and then I set a timer for 15 minutes, and then I knit. And when the 15 minutes are over, I roll up the project and put it aside. And that is not because I don't enjoy knitting and I wouldn't keep knitting longer than those 15 minutes. That is to protect my health and my neck. I seem to tense up quite a bit when I'm knitting and crocheting. And so I really want to do this in very, very small time increments. So daily for 15 minutes sounds good. And that's exactly what I started, which is unfortunately only the very last week of February, is when I started to think about the planning things and how could an ideal day look like. So I started to do that. And I was able to reach I didn't really knit much. That's definitely something that I have to admit in March, which isn't a big thing because I did knit. So yay me. I was able to move from this bluish blurple section right here through this raspberry red into the lime green, and I finished the lime green section on both sides of on both socks. So I'm knitting them at the same time on double pointed needles. This is what works really well for me because I am getting bored really easily. So if I finish one sock, then I will never start the second. But if I knit them at the same time at the knitting method that I enjoy most, which is double pointed needles, I just basically have two sets of needles. I have the exact same sock and I alternate. I knit the ribbing on this one, then I knit the ribbing on that one, then I tend with this stripes, it works really well because I'm just knitting two colors here, then I'm switching over, knitting three colors here, knitting back here, knitting two, swapping them around. And now I have measured my foot, which I'm going to grab in a second. I traced around my foot on a piece of paper and then I measured where from all the way here, all the way to this point where it starts to get narrow again. This is 5.5 centimeters from here. And this down here is 27.5. And so I actually knit all the way to here. I think I need to do a little bit more, just a tiny smidge, to reach that line right here, maybe one more color, and then I can start decreasing for the toe cap, which is what I am planning to do in March. So instead of swapping away from this project just before the finish line, I think it would be a really good ego boost for myself to actually finish a project, and this project is very close to finishing. So, which also really helps me with the 15 minutes. 15 minutes is almost one of these color strips. So if I'm thinking about, and then I also know how many color repeats I will still have to do for the toe cap because I measured it out. I can count how many centimeters, how many rows I need to finish, and when I need to start decreasing for the, to see if the cap that I'm planning on knitting, interruption right there. Where was I? Yes. So I can, before I start actually decreasing, I can compare the rows that I will do for the decreases for the whole toe cap, how many rows those are, count how much that takes up, and compare if this will fit for my 5.5 centimeters, if that makes sense. I have been known to make them just a tiny smidge too small, so I'm trying to make sure that this is not happening this time around. I think I originally wanted to make the toe cap in this color right here that I used for the cuffs and the heel. And so maybe I need to pull that out as well. So I'm glad we talked about it because I probably would have forgotten. So I think what I need to do for this is knit one more color and then start the cap, toe cap. Is that even what it's called? I don't know. If 15 minutes of knitting every single day, and also I'm not beating myself up if I don't do it every single day. The goal is to do it more days than not. So for instance, on Thursday, I just didn't have it in me to get up and get my knitting stuff, and so I just vegged out on the couch watching Schitt's Creek with my partner, and it was good. And it was perfect, and I felt good at the end of the day. I didn't beat myself up for not knitting. But if I can't fit it in, And if I'm pulling down my journals to journal on the couch, or if I'm pulling them out here upstairs to sit here on this awesome yellow chair, then I want to make it a point to also include my knitting with it. So in the case that I'm going to finish the socks, I have decided that the other March project is going to be my crochet blanket. And I've been knitting on this project for a long time. I don't see it being done anytime soon. It's kind of like a comfort project when I don't really know what I want to do, but I do want to do something with yarn. This is what I pull out. And my goal for March would be, let me see, I talked about this on video before, chewed a hole in this somewhere, and I want to find that and fix it. And I don't really care. I tried to look up how to do that actually, but I couldn't yet. Well, now it's gone. What the hell? So I'm going to look for that, and then I will be back. So I don't know if you can see it. Here is the hole, and he chewed on both rows, the bottom row and the top row, with the yellow, not yellow, with the blue, light blue and the dark blue. And so I had done some prior research that looked really tough and hard for me to translate into how it's supposed to work. So I decided that I was just going to try this myself. Because it is those triple crochets and granny stripes, I think that by undoing the stitches that are chewed where the yarn is actually broken, and just taking that out, and maybe even putting, like here where this yellow sits on top of the blue, what if I just put in a stitch marker, as well as on the other broken elements, put in a stitch marker so that I can keep those things as in the original state as possible, and then take out yarn so that I can sew the ends in here and secure them, and then just use some other yarn. And I don't really mind if you can actually see that I repaired this area, and just do triple crochets here and connect those bits and pieces that then will be hanging there unattended, basically. And yes, today is no shower Saturday, and you can see that in my hair, but I'm just showing up the way that I am, instead of making you think that I'm something that I'm not. And I think that might work. So if my socks will be done, I want to work on this. I want to repair this first. And if I still have time in March, then I just want to continue crocheting on this extremely colorful blanket. This is something that always brings me joy. It is very mindless. This is the last time that I shared it. I just basically added 2 rows. 1 row takes a lot of time. So if I set a timer for 15 minutes, I probably won't even be able to finish 1 row. And that's okay. This blanket is just here for me to add fun yarn scraps that I have from someplace, yarn that I purchased decades ago now, that I wanted to use for stuff that I haven't yet and that I don't actually like anymore. It's more time consuming to actually sell those instead of just adding them here. So that is what I'm planning to do, and I'm really looking forward to doing that. I have so many scraps in here that I can use. Some neutral colors, as well as some really bold ones. I showed this one. I have this one as well. Here's a whole bag of stuff that I want to add to this. So yeah, I am extremely looking forward to working on this. I'm excited about it, And yeah, now that we talked about repairing this, it doesn't seem like such a daunting thing that I need to work out how to do it. And I'm looking forward to working on this. I am going away. I hope. I need to put in for time off. But spring break in the summer. Yeah, it's spring break in the summer. It's spring break at the end of March. We have 2 weeks off, which is awesome. Well, I don't, but my son has 2 weeks off, and so we tend to take 4 or 5 days going to camping and bouldering, as well as it's the Eastern Sierras down in California. It's weird to say that it's down in California. It doesn't make sense, right? But for me, it does. Bishop is our favorite place to go. And I do want to hike there, but also I know that I have a lot of downtime. I will be outside and hopefully sitting in front of my van and just doing some awesome things. And so I want to bring that blanket with me. So that is the plan for March for knitting. Let's talk about food and going outside. I lumped these together because there is a preface that I need to say. The last 2 months, so January and February, I have noticed and learned that, first of all, weather isn't predictable, and also my food cravings or ideas aren't as predictable or as plannable as I had hoped they would be. So I do not want to start out the month and set myself up for failure with both of those sections by saying, oh, I'm going to make this or bake this or cook this food. And I am going to hike these 5 hikes, and that's it. What I really would like to do, and what these videos do for me, is keep the ideas in the forefront of my mind. I am ruminating. Oh, you love baking. This is a weekend that you can spend time baking. And by talking about it to you, it makes it more, more in the forefront of my mind. I'm repeating myself. So I am consciously thinking about it and making time for it. And that is the whole point of this video for me. It's holding me accountable to do the things that I want to do. So in February, I will put in a photo right here. I made Earl Grey tea cookies. And the reason why I was inspired to make Earl Grey tea cookies is because I saw cookie dough, frozen Earl Grey tea cookie dough at a local bakery. And I was like, I can make this. Do I really have to buy the dough? I could just go and figure out a recipe and make them myself. So that is what I did the next weekend, and I will link the recipe in the description box down below. It's the King Arthur recipe. It worked really well. I didn't buy expensive Earl Grey tea. I used what I had, which is Trader Joe's Earl Grey tea. I cut the bags open and used those, and it tasted really well. I meant to make Hefezopf, which is a sweet bread, this weekend. I actually wanted to make it yesterday, Friday, because that would give me 2 days in the morning of being able to eat Hefezopf for breakfast. Now, I totally forgot. This is the part of the planning process that is not working yet. Fridays, I have no brain to look into my planner. Not any type of planner at all. So, I'm thinking of making it maybe later today or pushing it to next weekend, because if I actually am able to make it on Friday, I would get most of it. I am this is when I feel like I have not been diagnosed, but maybe I am on the spectrum. I am eating the same breakfast every morning. If I find something that I like, I will eat it for years. And my day doesn't start right if I don't eat that specific breakfast. So on the working days, I am eating the same breakfast. So I can only eat if it's up in the morning for breakfast on the weekends. So if I make it on Friday, I have 2 days. If I make it on Saturday, I only have 1 day to eat if it's up. See the problem here, and see why it would be better to try again next Friday instead of doing it this Saturday. So that's that. For the outside is very similar. I am very mood driven when I'm going outside. I do like making plans or looking at hikes that I can make in advance. However, not just my mood is what drives or dictates my hiking. The weather plays a huge factor in that as well. And it was super unpredictable this past 2 months. January, I wanted to go snowshoeing all the time. There was no snow to go to, so I couldn't. In February, it was so warm. We did, and I will have some video footage of that here. In February, we had President's Day off, and I believe we went hiking on President's Day. That wasn't President's Day. Maybe it was the day before. It was the weirdest thing. We hiked in our mountains over here. And it was so warm. I walked around in my t-shirt. I'm walking around in my t-shirt outside again. And you wouldn't think that it was February. And then 2 days later, we had the biggest snow week of the year. The season, not the year, because winter starts in 2025. And we had so much snow, so much so that I could start snowshoeing right outside my front door, which is not normally what is happening here. So obviously, instead of going hiking on Peavine Mountain, which was snowy and probably wouldn't really have worked anyway, I just went snowshoeing because the opportunity was there, and so we did. So I have some footage of that, and I want to show you just how weird it is here with the weather. It's like dry, yellow, dirty. It doesn't look like much, and we're walking here through the mountain, and the next day it's covered in snow, and it doesn't look the same at all. And then, so I want to show that to you.
Super interesting to me. There is tracks over here that go up this mountain. Some of them go down over to the left, but then there's fresh tracks that are relatively fresh tracks that are crossing right in front of me. And these tracks right here, the ones that you see, are from me. These ones from Wednesday. But in the background there's fresh tracks, and I haven't seen any tracks closer. So I'm really curious to see what that is. Let's go and check it out. It's so interesting to see where the animals walk. And usually when I'm out here, I don't really see any wildlife besides some birds. But there must be some. Or this is still... No, because this is the tracks that I left right in front of us. There was wind. But this also looks like tracks from snowshoes. But then look at this. Like, is this a person? Doesn't look like it. It looks like two animals. I don't I cannot read tracks, especially not when they're this. Look at how they look. Huh. Interesting. Okay, so this is definitely me and my partner walking here.
But I did pull out some of my hiking guides to see when I want to start backpacking on the weekends again. And I learned, unfortunately, which for some reason in my mind I was like, okay, winter is over in March, I can go backpacking in March. But yes, I can do that, but then my travel is going to be a lot. I can't just go out here and backpack so the mountains that I could backpack in are technically behind me because there's still snow up there. So if I wanted to go backpacking, I would have to go to possibly Utah, Arizona, and that's not close. So it's not something that you can just do and leave on Friday and come back on Sunday night and you're done. So I have learned that backpacking in the Sierra Nevada is best possible, depending on the snow year, from the end of June, which is cutting it really close. So there could be way too much water in the creeks that you need to cross, or July. So it is March. I have a backpacking book for hiking in the Bay Area, but then again, even that is taking too much travel time. So I need to plan ahead and do that maybe Memorial Day, but then Memorial Day is when everybody goes and there's no space. So tough shitty kitty, I guess. Yes. So I'm reading guidebooks. I have a book that is like local hikes here that I want to investigate a little further and drive there. My problem with driving to a hike that is 2.5 miles long is like, that is nothing. I can just go outside. And like, is it really that different? The desert looks the same here than it looks there. But also, at the same time, I hate going the same loop every single day. So maybe I just need to get over that speed bump of it is okay to drive to a hike that is only 2.5 miles. Maybe I'll go it twice and then I have 5, I don't know. How do you do that? Is that something that you even think about? Yeah. It just, like driving there for 30 minutes and then being there and like, zoop, and being back and driving back feels so stupid to me. All right. So, last thing, I think I have a video for that. I'm going to try and send these out before Valentine's Day. And so when I film this video for February, I won't be able to show you anything. So here is my plan. I have a ton of these letters from my extravagant hope mailers from Brandy Kincaid. And so I decided I will take those and add them to each letter that I sent out to a friend. I feel like right now we need a lot of hope, and her letters always bring me some kind of insight, something inspirational, something hopeful that I can take into the next month or week or however many long I want to think about the things that are written in here. I have kept them a long time. Some I have never read. Instead of thinking about what I'm missing out, I'm going to just try and read the ones that I get every month and maybe bring some hope to someone else. right now. So these are going into my envelopes. I also pulled out all the letter cards like this one that I have because I don't want to send any of the mail that I'm sending out as a tracked package. I want to send them as letters because I have a lot of charms. I have a list of quite a few friends. I don't want to break the bank. So I pulled out all of these cards that are like this with, you know, that make it sturdier so that the charm that is here, I can just put it into the card. Then I have the letter plus, so I have a ton of cards pulled out that I can use. And then I also I think I showed this before, but my friend Maike from Cat Collage Club gifted this sticker to me last summer sometime, and she also gifted me the digital files and allowed me to make stickers from them. So I made a sticker of Max and I will include that in every single letter. And then the thing that I made is right here. So I actually, there's maybe 5 or so that are still left that I can make right here. And basically what I did is I combined one heart or one of those circular charms like this one. Now focus. How would that be? How about focus? Right here. One of those with one of those blinky, blitzy, and these are really tiny. Like, this is my fingertip, and they're really tiny. I feel like they could be attached to a zipper like this. They could be attached to an elastic on a traveler's notebook, or they could even be used as progress charms on your knitting or crochet. So I hope that all of my friends will be able to use this in some sort of way. So I have these types, this type, and then I made the hearts like so. And I really love this. I really love how this turned out. It took me an evening to make. I have a ton of them. And now I just need to make sure that they get sent out before Valentine's Day. Right there. So I made those from stuff that I purchased at Michael's. I showed it to you in my last video. My process was batch processes. I made the charms first. It was a lot of fun. It was a very easy to make project. It only took maybe 2 evenings to actually make all of the charms. And then, because they were conversational hearts, they are Valentine themed. It was February. I thought this would be the perfect opportunity to send Valentines to friends. Now, thoughts like this often push off a hyper-focus project, and hyper-focus projects are super dangerous for me. I am neglecting a lot of things when I'm in hyper-focus mode. I'm neglecting my own health. I am neglecting all the other things that I like to do and then struggling to catch up, which I know is not necessarily something that I have to do, but that I want to do. And when I get back from a hyper-focused project, I am often very distraught. Just, the adrenaline and the good vibes that it gives me while I'm doing it completely fall off and I'm back in reality of my life. And it feels like you're coming up for air for the first time in months. And you look around and you're like, oh, okay, this is what this chaos area looks like. Now I have to clean this all up. Now I have to, oh, I might have to shower because I haven't showered in ages. And maybe I need to move. And oh, my shoulder hurts and everything hurts. And I'm realizing how much stress I put on my mental health and my body, even though in the moment I didn't notice any of these things. I was so euphoric and so excited about that project and keeping working on it all the time for way too long every single day. So over the years, I have actually stopped allowing myself to fall into those hyper-focus projects because they're so hard to recover from. But the problem is I do enjoy them, and there's a lot of my creativity is just like, overspilling and coming out when I'm in those projects. So either I'm oppressing my creativity by not allowing myself to dive into those hyper-focused projects, or I am completely wrecked after they're done and finished. So when I stumble across something that could become a hyper-focused project, I'm really wary to allow myself to do that. And I'm trying now to establish some guidelines. Like if you were climbing, you have a rope, you have a harness, you have someone who's standing at the bottom and securing you. And that is kind of what I'm doing there. I'm trying to not free climb in my hyper-focus projects anymore. I'm trying to get a safety net established so that if I fall, I don't fall that far, With this Valentine's project, that meant that I established a hard date, a hard stop date, a non-negotiable stop date. And that was the day after Valentine's. Valentine's Day in 2026 was Saturday. So I allowed myself to finish that project by the end of the day on Sunday. So if I didn't finish any of the cards or sending any of the charms, and you saw there's some left, so I do want to send them out at some point, but I didn't because I wasn't able to finish the project. And this is a huge shift. It doesn't feel like a failure because I feel super happy to have sent out. Let me check and count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. No, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. I think I sent out 15 charms. Maybe I didn't write down all of them. So let's say between 15 and 20 charms I sent out to friends by the finished date. And that's a lot. I wrote cards. I labeled the envelopes, all of those. I did those in batches. And so every night I sent out around 3 to 4. So, and that was really good. I felt good. I went to bed at the right time. I only did 3 to 4. My hand didn't feel cramped. I enjoyed the process, and that is what I want. I don't want to fall into that thing where all of a sudden it turns and I'm super stressed. So the hard date, I also allowed myself to only make as many charms as the original supplies that I had acquired with the intention of making charms. that was the only, if I ran out of any supplies, I would put them in a box and maybe revisit later. So a hard stop that Sunday. What else? And then I also decided to only send those charms to people here in the United States, as it would need some customs declaration for the charm for outside the United States. And that's one of the reasons why there are still charms left. I have some people on my list overseas that when I send them a bigger package, bigger something, I will include that charm and send it then. So, yeah. And I had so much fun. Like, really. It was just so good, and it felt so right, and I felt accomplished after I was done with it. And you might think, oh my God, in this political climate, in the world, it's burning down. And yes, I see that every time. But I also felt like that keeping up my creativity, sending those little notions out into the world was my form of resisting. I did not despair. I sent some hope, some love to friends, and I hope they felt the love as well. And it cheered them up to call their reps and, be there and witness what is happening, instead of sticking their head in the sand and not being able to deal with life. So crafting is my form of resisting and pushing back against the shit that is going on in the world right now. And so we are going to roll the dice for March, because I want to see what is coming up. I'm ready for some new adventure, and so let's look at what the dice tell me to do in March.
There is prompts on the back here. And these are creative things that I've meant to do for a long time that I haven't gotten around to. And yes, I know if I roll the die once a month, I will only be able to do 12 a year, but that is better than not doing them at all. And so we will roll. Wow, what just fell? Okay, 13. I made these cards sometime last year, and now let's see. I'm curious what is coming out. Make sticker postcard. Oh, yeah. Oh, you know what that is? So I'm taking a postcard, and then I'm just going to add a ton of stickers and just make it a conglomerate of stickers. Do I have an example? I don't know. But if you're interested, maybe I can film this in one of my snippets from my desk videos. This is cool. This is doable. This is an easy project, and I like doing it. Now I'm leaving this out, and I'm removing this from the back here because there is some creative ideas that I want to do. So if I have another idea, I'll put it on the back here. So here is my list for March. I want to send 3 postcards to my goddaughter, Amelia. I want to send a thank you card to Logan that I received this amazing postcard from. And then I got a birthday card from my friend Anya that I want to respond to. And then Shauna, my friend over at Serial Nana, has sent me quite a few letters recently, and I would like to respond, especially since I have been so motivated by The Correspondent. Yeah, that book was so good. In my 5-hour arts, I want to finish my socks. I want to work on my crochet blanket. If I can, I would like to do Hefezopf in March. I want to go on a hike in Bishop I already know which one. Maybe I can find a different one as well, but we'll see. And then for my crafty project is I want to make a sticker postcard. Yeah, let me know what's on your crafty project list in March. Did you finish anything in February? I would love to know. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you so much, and I hope to see you again soon. Bye.